to PG Tech Tips. Today I'll be going over the benchmarks of my previous video's budget gaming computer for $500. But before that, I want to talk to you about the actual price of that particular PC, because that particular computer was a little bit over. It was over $500 because that case was over $100. But if you just get a normal S340, that should be about $500 for the actual price, which is a pretty good price for what's in there. And I know you can get better deals on graphics cards now, but when I purchased that graphics card, none of the deals had really come out, so that was the best budget gaming graphics card. And I guess you could substitute it, and if you can find better deals for $500, go ahead and comment PC part picker lists down below and share your ideas with all the rest of the computer enthusiast community on a budget. Anyways, back to the performance. This computer on Black Ops 3 at 1080p medium to high settings gets around 60 frames per second average, and max is 60 frames per second because it can't dip below, or it can't go above 60 because I have it set to a cap for that. But its lowest was 53 frames per second, and this is with ×2 anti-aliasing. And with Witcher 3, I was getting an average of about 30-ish frames per second and a high of about 37. I did have a few spots in some really intense action areas. And this is at medium settings, with it dipped down to 10 frames per second, but that was only a few times. It wasn't very often. Other than that, it performs pretty well. I've played a few other games. For some reason, it's overclocked to a decent amount, 4.2 gigahertz, and on Cinebench I only got a, I believe it was oh crap, I don't remember. Well, I got a rather low CPU render score, and I was really confused. But for the OpenGL, I got an 80 frames per second score. I'll have the other score, the CPU score, right about here. And, which I was a little bit confused. I figured it'd get a higher score, but it didn't. It still renders videos very well, especially if you use CUDA acceleration on Premiere Pro. It renders them like a pro, and that's very impressive. The computer looks absolutely gorgeous, in my opinion, and I hope to be getting an SSD soon, and some cool studio monitors, but if I don't, I may cry, because college funding is here, and books are expensive, so is college, which makes things difficult to buy. You don't have money. But anyways, it works well, and the performance is amazing. It performs liquid smooth on just about any game, max settings at 720p. At 1080, just about every game at medium to high settings, it performs very well. And for rendering, it does rather well. And it is super ultra quiet, especially if you use the motherboard's built-in program, or control center or whatever for MSI, and you can crank down all the fans for the CPU, and it gets real quiet, and you can hardly hear anything. There's another fan over there, and it's on low, and I can hear that 10 times over the computer. It's great. Other than that, those are the benchmarks. It runs quiet. It is very overclockable. The CPU only got to about overclocked to 4.2. Highest was about 62 degrees Celsius, and that's while doing like Prime 95 for a while. And that's without the fan going to 100%. That's keeping the CPU fan at about 30%. So if you ramped it up all the way, it would probably go back down to 50 something or another. The GPU is stuck at around 40%. You can't go lower than that just because that's what that GPU has. But it's very quiet and super cool, especially considering it's 750 Ti and doesn't have much power output. They did add a 6-pin PCI input, so you can overclock it more and provides less strain on the PCI Express slot. But it is just super quiet and super chilly cold, considering some of the stuff. You can put it under max load at like 40% speed, so its lowest speed, it barely even gets up to 50 degrees Celsius, and that is so fantastic. And it is very cheap, considering the Xbox One, when it first was introduced, was around $500. This is around $500 depending on what parts you actually put in it. And first of all, it looks much sexier. Second of all, it performs much better. But I don't want to start any like wars between console and gamers. There is a time for console and there's a time for PC, and that's all there's to it. Thank you for watching PG Tech Tips. This is me signing out.